Hey guys, what's up? Hope everybody's having a good day out there today, and welcome back here to the Fishing Teacher. And I really appreciate you guys watching today's video. And today, guys, we're going to give tips and advice on how to retrieve a crankbait. We're going to be talking about the different type of crankbait retrieves based upon situations, time of year, that type of stuff. And it's really critical to catching fish because a crankbait is a reaction lure. And in order to generate a strike from a crankbait, you have to get the fish to react to that. And the way that you retrieve that bait, based upon some different factors out there, plays a big role in whether that fish is going to bite the crankbait or not. So I think it's going to be some good info for everybody. Guys, real quick before we get started, I just want to remind you, anybody out there interested in booking an on-the-water lesson with me, to go out on the water with me, all you have to do is shoot me a private message on my Facebook page, Randy Block, a professional angler, and I can give you all the details for that. So much appreciated. Okay guys, crankbait fishing. Crankbaits are one of my favorite lures to fish. They're a really diverse lure category. A lot of different types of crankbaits. There's the deep lips, medium lips, shallow lips, different profiles, different sizes. But regardless of the type of crankbait you use or the type of lip on it, there's some foundational retrieves that you can use to help you guys catch more fish. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you guys through winter, spring, summer, fall, the 4 seasons of the year, and sort of go over with you guys how I like to retrieve my crankbaits in different situations. So first of all, the way that you want to retrieve a crankbait, a lot of it has to do with the water clarity, the water temperature, and the type of cover you're fishing. And if you're fishing in colder weather, in fact, we won't even sort of break it in 4 seasons. Let's go more by water temperature because that's even more important. When you're talking about fishing in colder water scenarios, like when that water temperature is under 52 degrees, that 52 degrees is sort of what I consider the magic number that separates cold water from more the medium temperature. So if you're dealing with water temperatures under 52 degrees, which is normally, depending upon what part of the country you're in, it can be December into early April. One of the best ways you can do it, guys, is just make your cast with your crankbait out there. And normally you want the bait to go deeper when it's cold, so hold your rod tip lower, hold the rod tip lower to the water. And by holding the rod tip lower to the water, it actually helps the bait get deeper. So putting it right next to the water is going to be a big deal. The next thing you need to do is, regardless of the type of crankbait you're fishing, start out with just fishing a fairly slow retrieve, not like crawling it along like that, but just about this pace right here, about this type of a retrieve, and occasionally stop and go. And when you stop and go it, let it pause for a little bit. Sometimes let it pause for 2 or 3 seconds. And this is really important to generate a strike from the cold water fish. And a lot of times also what you can do is you can put some little lead weights called suspend strips on the belly of your crankbait that make it where it doesn't float up very fast. So when you're reeling that crankbait slow like that and you stop it, the bait doesn't rise up. It stays in the same water column and you don't lose your depth. But just sort of that slow stop like that is going to be the way to catch them with that, and when that water temperature is over or under 52 degrees. Also with that, guys, is a little side option here. One of the things that really determines different crankbait depths is not only your rod tip angle to the water, but the size of line you're using. And I think it's pretty common knowledge that the heavier line that you use, the shallower the bait's going to run, vice versa, the lighter it's going to run deeper. Now, when that water temperature starts to rise into the mid-50s, let's say from some mid-50s to probably, let's say, 75 degrees, in that range there, which is pretty wide, but most of the time that's sort of like anywhere between April to June in different parts of the country. Same type of deal. This is when you need to speed it up a little bit. So instead of like going to the slow retrieve like we did in winter, just start speeding it up a little bit like that. And you still want to stop and go, but you don't want the stop and go to be that long. Since the water temperature is warmer, fish are aggressive, you don't need to pause it for a long time. So just a medium retrieve about like that, stop it, medium retrieve, stop it like that. And a lot of times I'll just do like a half turn, just like that. So main thing is just don't keep that crankbait real uniform going through the water. Try to get it wobbling where it stops, and just keep it erratic like that. But that pretty much works up until the mid-70s. Now the third phase is when that water temperature is, say, over 75 degrees, when it's the hottest time of the year, normally anywhere between June to September. And When I'm talking about hot, I'm talking about hot for the area that you're in, because if you guys live, say, in northern Ohio, the water temperatures are going to be a little bit cooler than if you live in Texas or something like that. But when we talk about warm water, we're talking about, say, whatever the maximum temperature gets in your lakes, and maybe take away 5 or 8 degrees from that. That's when you do the third type of retrieve. And the third type of retrieve, you cast it out there and you're using a medium fast. You're like reeling it in like that, stop. Reeling it in like that, stop. Still stop and go retrieve, but you sped it up considerably. Say, here's our winter retrieve about like this, and here's our summer retrieve, just like that. And the reason you do this is, again, the metabolism of the fish have increased. Fish are cold-blooded creatures, and their metabolism is directly reflected with the water temperature. So the faster retrieve that goes through there, the more that you're going to generate that reaction strike. Because when that water gets really warm, you've got the fish, you can't give them time to look at it. When the water's cold, you actually want to give the fish time to look at it a little bit. But in that warmer water, when they're reacting on a bait, you got to have it pretty fast. And also, guys, the rod angle is pretty critical as well. If you're trying to max out the depth, again, like I said, hold it low. But most of the time, I like to have the rod tip sort of like parallel to my body and just point that rod tip straight at the crankbait. Now, if I don't want it to run very deep, say for example, I'm fishing around some shallow wood that's in like 2 foot of water, I may cast it out there, and I may start out and I keep my rod tip high, trying to keep that bait higher. And sometimes what I do is I'll cast it to the bank, and if I'm hitting the bottom with my rod tip high, I'll keep it high and I'll gradually lower it as the water gets deeper. So if I cast a 45-degree angle bank, I may start out like here, I'm hitting the bottom, and then say I lose contact with the bottom right now, I'll drop my rod tip down and I'll keep dropping my rod tip until I can maintain contact with the bottom. So anyway, guys, that's the 3 basic retrieves that you need to have as far as crankbait retrieves. Normally that works. Best advice I can give you guys is, try to just be irregular in your retrieve. And also, the retrieves I was talking about was designed for a 7-to-1 ratio. So if you're using a slower ratio reel or faster, you need to adjust appropriately on that. So anyway, hope it helps. We'll talk later.